When two or more elements combine, compounds are formed. The compounds of life are called organic compounds. Organic compounds contain carbon atoms that are bonded to hydrogen atoms. These are some examples of organic compounds. You can see the bond that is represented by this little line between hydrogen and carbon. Inorganic compounds do not contain carbon to hydrogen bonds. Here are some examples of inorganic compounds. Inorganic compounds are usually found in the non-living world, meaning they don't really make up living organisms. These inorganic compounds, however, are still pretty important. H2O, or water, carbon dioxide, CO2, and oxygen, O2, are all inorganic compounds that don't make up living things, but are still very important to life. One way to organize the chemistry of life is by thinking of it as a ladder. Each step on the ladder is built on the things found on the lower steps. The smallest unit of matter is the atom. Atoms can be combined to form simple inorganic compounds, like carbon dioxide or water. Those simple inorganic compounds can combine to form simple organic compounds. Simple organic compounds combine to form complex organic compounds. These are things like carbohydrates or proteins. These complex organic compounds combine to form cell parts. These are the organelles that make up a cell, like a nucleus, for example. The cell is the next step, and this is where life begins. The cell is the smallest unit of life. Cells can combine to form tissues. Muscle tissue or nervous tissue, for an example. Tissues make up organs, like a heart or a stomach or lungs. Organs combine to form organ systems. For example, your circulatory system or your digestive system. All of these organ systems together make up an organism, an entire creature like yourself. To answer the question, what are living things made of? Let's look at the lowest rung of the ladder and look at atoms. Atoms are the smallest unit of matter. Regardless of whether something is alive or non-living, it is made up of atoms. According to the Bohr model, atoms look like this. They're made up of protons, which have a positive charge, neutrons, which are neutral. They have no charge. And finally, electrons, which have a negative charge. The protons and neutrons of an atom are tightly bound in the nucleus of the atom. The electrons orbit that nucleus in a place called the electron cloud. This conceptualization of the atom is called the Bohr's planetary model, because those electrons orbit the nucleus like planets orbiting the sun. You can use information from the periodic table of elements to draw atoms using the Bohr's planetary model. In the upper left-hand corner of each element, you can find the atomic number. The atomic number tells you how many protons are found in the nucleus of that atom. The atomic number for carbon is 6. That means that there are 6 protons in the nucleus of a carbon atom. In the upper right-hand corner of the box is the mass number. The mass number tells you how many protons and neutrons are located in the nucleus of an atom. The mass number for carbon is 12. That means that carbon has 12 protons and neutrons in the nucleus of its atom. When you draw an atom using the Bohr model, the protons and neutrons are written inside the nucleus, while the electrons are drawn in the orbitals surrounding the nucleus. The first orbital can hold 2 electrons. The second orbital can hold 8 electrons. And the third orbital can hold 18 electrons. In order to conceptualize this better, think of the orbitals like a tiered fountain. The first tier, or orbital, can hold 2 electrons. Once there are 2 electrons in this orbital, it overflows to the second orbital, or the second tier on the fountain. That second tier, or orbital, can hold 8 electrons. Once that orbital is full, it overflows to the third orbital. That third orbital can hold 18 electrons. This model gives us a total of 28 electrons to play with. Obviously, there are some elements on the periodic table that have more than 28 electrons. There are other models that more accurately display how these electrons are configured within the orbitals, but for the purposes of this class, we just don't need to know that much. So let's just focus on those elements that have 28 electrons or less. Don't worry about the ones that have more. Let's use nitrogen as an example for drawing an atom using the Bohr's planetary model. The atomic number of nitrogen, 7, tells us how many protons are in the nucleus of the atom. So we can write 7 protons in the center of this picture. The mass number in the top right-hand corner tells us how many protons and neutrons are in the nucleus. If we know that there are 14 protons and neutrons, and that there are 7 protons, we can mathematically calculate how many neutrons are in the nucleus. 14 protons and neutrons minus 7 protons will give us 7 neutrons. So we can write 7 neutrons in the nucleus of the atom. The 7 protons and 7 neutrons in the nucleus of the atom make up the atomic mass. That's how we figured out this mass number. 7 protons plus 7 neutrons equals 14. Now to draw the electrons. In a neutral atom, the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons. In this case, 7. So we need to draw a total of 7 electrons in the orbitals surrounding this nucleus. The first orbital can hold 2 electrons, so we can draw our 2 electrons there. We need a total of 7 electrons to make this atom neutral, so we need to draw 5 more. All 5 of those electrons can fit in that second orbital. This completes the model for nitrogen. Here's another example using potassium. Look at the atomic number for potassium. It's 19. So we know we need to draw 19 protons in the nucleus of this atom. Next, we need to figure out the number of neutrons. The mass number of 39 tells us how many protons plus neutrons are in the nucleus. If we take that mass number 39 and we subtract the number of protons, that will give us the number of neutrons. 39 minus 19 is 20. So we know that there are 20 neutrons in the nucleus of this atom. This potassium atom is neutral. So however many plus charges we have to have the same number of minus charges to balance it out. There are 19 protons in the nucleus, so that means we need 19 electrons to balance it out and make it neutral. To draw these electrons, we'll have to go orbital by orbital. We can fit 2 electrons in the first orbital. There are 19, so we don't stop there. We need 17 more electrons in those orbitals. We can't draw them all in the second orbital, because the second orbital can only fit 8. So we draw 8 more in that second orbital. Now we have a total of 10 electrons drawn, but again, we need 19. So we'll need 9 more electrons in the third orbital. And luckily, they can all fit. So this is a picture of what a potassium atom looks like. We can also work backwards, using the Bohr planetary model, to fill in the periodic table of elements. Here's an example atom that has 6 protons and 6 neutrons in the nucleus, and 6 electrons orbiting that nucleus in the electron cloud. In order to fill in the periodic table, all we need to do is look at the picture. We see that there are 6 protons in the nucleus, So that means that we can fill in the top left-hand corner of that box with a number 6. That's the atomic number for this particular atom. We see that there are 6 neutrons in the nucleus as well. 6 protons plus 6 neutrons gives us a mass number of 12, and we can write that in the top right-hand corner of the periodic table. We do not need to include the electrons in the mass number, since electrons are so tiny and so light that they really don't contribute to the weight of the atom. If we use our periodic table of the elements as a reference, we can look up these numbers and match it up to figure out that this atom is carbon.